Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man! All right! Episode 228 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Adam from Dr. Don's in Arizona. Let's go!
Hey, everybody. It is just me again. For those asking, Andy's fine. He's just trying to get some stuff in order. So it's just going to be me for a little while. Bring on special guests, which is fun. And yeah, things will be great. I'm going to jump right into the sponsors and then we'll get into the episode. Here we go. Frank. It all starts with a screen. And whether it's new stretches or restretches, Frank and his team do it the best. They're obviously the screen lords, but don't pass them up for custom racking and wide range of other print supplies. To find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, ffffrank.com, or greatfuckingscreens.com. Cleaning screens is no fun, but EasyWay makes it way more funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier. Check them out at easyway.com. EasyWay. It's the easiest way. GraphX is the source for production-ready digital art and remote art staffing. They can help any size shop from just starting out to enterprise level. Looking to add a hero to your art department but don't want to hire a new rando? Check out graphxsource.com. Choosing the right emulsion for your shop is complicated, and that's why we love Chromaline. Go to chromaline.com to watch Kev's vids or contact him on IG at The Emulsion Guru and get the answers you need fast. Kev's been helping us out a ton. Definitely go check out Chromaline. SNS has been our go-to apparel source since day one. Discover an extensive range of apparel that blends innovative design and unbeatable comfort. Their customer service and quality control are the best out there. Check them out at ssactivewear.com. By far the best. Been asking for samples to some of our top clients, and it's been amazing. Amazing company. It's great. I would like to talk to you today about the Gildan Hammer Tee. This 6-ounce ring spun cotton tee has been our go-to for clients looking for a modern classic fit, but has the elevated feel that they are proud to wear. Proudly using 100% U.S. cotton that is sustainably grown and ethically harvested, as well as made with the respect for climate, energy, and water. We truly love the printability of this tee. The hammer has been amazing for us when it comes to construction companies and people who are looking for an elevated, soft fitting shirt, but it's got that classic kind of like, I don't want to say boxy, but like standard fitting shirt. It's pretty awesome. You should check it out. And the printability on it is amazing. ScreenprintGPT.com is an absolutely free site where our buddy Matthew Michael Marcotte has put 1 billion hours of his time into training AI to help us with our daily screen printing questions. Not only is this an extremely smart machine that helps us troubleshoot all things print, but this site also has a ton of really awesome tools on it that include a pricing calculator, embroidery stitch run calculator, and a box label and packing slip maker. And he's about to launch an ink consumption calculator. It's all free. Go check it out. Matt has been asking me back and forth about the ink calculator thing and testing it out, and it's pretty awesome. So if you have this big run or just you're kind of running low on certain inks and you want to make sure you have enough, check out the ink calculator. It lets you put in all the parameters, and then you can say, hey, it's going to roughly be this many grams of ink. So it definitely could help you out in a pinch. I also want to talk about our Shirt Show Discord. We talk a lot on this show about community and raising all ships. If you haven't already, we have a Shirt Show Discord with a ton of members. All day, everyday printers are in there being super supportive and sharing knowledge with each other. There are all kinds of channels from screen print, embroidery, DTG, DTF, business, and more. Check out the link to sign up on our Instagram or our YouTube page. If you're watching this, it would help me out a ton, Andy out a ton, this show in general. If you could give us a like, a share, a subscribe, depending on what you're watching this on. If you can share it on Instagram, on stories, or on Facebook, just to tell your friends that you're listening to the show, that would help us out a lot. It really would. So do us a favor and do that for us. Today we are talking with Adam Ratliff of Dr. Don's Buttons, Stickers, and More.
Can you see me?
What's up, dude? I can.
What's up, Dylan? How are you?
How are you, man?
I'm doing good, doing good.
Look at you with a fucking Shure mic.
I Amazoned overnight it, so I'd look like a semi-professional
Dude,
here.
it's amazing. We get so many people who just use like, AirPods or shoddy mics or whatever. So for you to come on and have that, it's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing some testing on it, so it sounded a lot better than just the echo of my AirPods. So
Yeah, sounds great. So what's up, dude? How's your day?
been good, been good. I'm excited to be here. I started listening to the show about a year and a half ago and listened to every episode, and
That's a lot, dude. It's been over 4 years now of episodes.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And I mean, you guys have been, amazing for the industry, amazing for me. And I got connected with Nick Wood, who obviously connected me with you guys, and he's been amazing. I'm excited to start working with those guys as well.
What are you using Graphic Source for?
So we have a lot of let me start from, we do a lot of different things. Like we do buttons, stickers, banners, all different types of stuff like that. But we've only done t-shirts for a couple of years, and I don't really have SOPs or, flows for everything. So
Right.
if I leave the office for a week, then nobody's getting any shirts. So I kind of use them to accelerate what I need done. So
Right.
with, using them to get the graphics done, the mock-ups done, stuff put in the Google Drive so I can hire somebody to run our DTF printer, size everything, rather than
the straight up remote art staffing, like the whole thing that they offer.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. The funny thing is I wanted to talk to you, and we've talked before just about button stuff, but like I checked out your website today, because normally you don't go to like other buddies' websites. And I was like, I'm going to check out this website and see like what's on there. You have like everything.
We do a lot. Yeah.
You offer like fucking every service.
We do a lot. I redesigned the website in 2020. So my dad started the company in 1991 and learned how to code a website back in 1996. I think he went online. So like the infancy of e-commerce type of things.
Yeah.
And that worked back then, but it didn't work in 2018, 19. I mean, he had over 1,000 pages, just straight HTML. And so anyway, the point of it is to getting everything down and changing over to the new website was a ton. And I was like, at that time, I was like, why do we offer so many damn products? We need to get rid of this and this. And then when COVID came, that was actually kind of a blessing that we offered different things, because nobody wanted buttons during COVID. So
yeah. Well, before we get super into that, I want to step back and kind of get the story. So you said your dad started this way back when?
Correct. Yeah. He started the company in 1991. He was a wedding photographer, so he only worked on the weekends, and he used to go to the bar. And so as a way to pay his bar bill was making funny sayings on buttons and selling them to the people in there. And that kind of turned into, getting local advertisements in the yellow pages, white pages, type of thing. And then learned how to code a website and go online.
What kind of buttons did he start off with?
Just like, honestly, it was like dirty saying buttons, stupid.
I know, but were they like the 1-inch badge? Were they like the 2 1/4, or what were they?
Yeah. Like the 1-inch pins. Okay. And I think that's what you got started with, correct?
Yeah. 1-inch. I mean, I only did 1-inch. Like that was it. It was like just fucking 1-inch buttons all day, every day. Yeah. Which is funny because there's quite a few shops that I know that started out with buttons. And I think it's probably like the easiest to get into as far as like an entry into the merch game, like buying a press and a printer.
It's funny. He started with 1-inch, you started with 1-inch, and we don't even offer making 1-inch buttons anymore.
Really?
We only started the 1 1/4 and go up from there, just because that extra pushing the pin in the back after you're done making it is.
Yeah. Which is funny because when I started, so for people, I'm sure people know, but back in, I don't even know what it was now, 2007 ish, I started a company called Merch Buttons, where I just decided to make 1-inch buttons. My girlfriend at the time ordered buttons from a craft business. I think it was Busy Beaver Button Co. back then. I don't even know if they're still around or not. She ordered 100 buttons with like her craft thing on them, and I can't remember what she paid, but it was a good amount. And then when the buttons came in the mail, it was in like a little plastic baggie that fit in the palm of your hand. And I was like, holy shit, you paid that for this? And I was in a band at the time, and I was like, oh, like I need merch, and there's got to be money in making these. So I think I went online, and it was like whatever that place is called, like Techry or whatever, that sells the button makers.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, how much is a button maker? So I was like, I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. Buy the button maker, bought like 1,000 parts. And then I got everything in, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to start making buttons. So I made a bunch of buttons for my band, and then took them to shows. And then all the bands we were with were like, oh, I want buttons, whatever. And then I was like, oh, this is going to be a business now. Like, I'm fucking doing this. I'm going to back then it was MySpace. I'm like, I'm going to make a MySpace, and I'm going to make a website and all this other stuff, and did that. And I was running back and forth to Kinko's at the time to get the buttons printed. So I would like design them on the computer, make a template of a sheet, go to Kinko's and be like, oh, I need 100 of this, I need 50 of this, and whatever. And then because they had a really nice laser printer, because you don't want to use inkjet, you want to use laser to get like all the clean photorealistic whatever. So got them back here, and then sat there, like cut them into strips, fed them to the thing, looking over your neck's fucking dying, like cutting out every single button and then pressing them. And it did that for quite a while. But yeah, I only offered the 1-inch buttons because that's all I had was the 1-inch button maker. I didn't want to buy like 10 different makers and different styles. I just wanted to focus on the 1-inch buttons. But that was also popular at the time. Like, I feel like when I started doing buttons was pretty popular. Like, a lot of bands carried buttons. Like, I don't ever see buttons at a merch table anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, which is probably why you don't sell 1-inch buttons, where they just not as
we just don't do it just because of the extra labor at the end of it. Just,
clicking in the back.
Yeah. And that's always why. And it's funny, even when you talk about that, I remember my dad always telling stories, like when he first started, same thing. He had an inkjet printer that he would run, if he got a big job, run all night long. And even that, it was still so profitable, when you could sell these buttons for, the way they were. And
I don't even remember what I had them priced at. I just remember it was like most people bought 100 buttons. I think it was like 100 buttons for, I honestly don't remember what the cost was, but it was like good. Like the money was good for me, especially like I had a part-time job still, and I was doing that in the basement, and it was like I was making good money just selling buttons, and it worked out really well. But yeah, I definitely had like a callus on my thumb in the middle from like clicking in those copper like back clips.
Or when you get them, it's in the big bunch and you have to shake them.
Yeah, because you get them, they're like thrown in a wad and they all stick together. I remember I would get them, and I would get like a big tray, almost like a drawer out of a cabinet, and like just shake the shit out of them and like fill it. And then I just had an assembly line of like, the cap, the Mylar, the like little ring, and then like the copper thing at the end. And your fingers would always be like dark copper colored from like clicking those in. And I don't know, I liked it. Like, I loved that was my entry, because it really got me involved and got my eyes open to doing this whole thing. So when you say he started in the wedding, like he was a wedding photographer, you said?
Wedding photographer, yeah.
Did he try to sell to like weddings or anything like that? As like
he didn't. He did it just as a side gig, but he would do, he'd make buttons, sell buttons, and then he would, just as like a little gift, he'd make like a Mickey, Minnie Mouse, but magnet with the person's name on it and give it to him as a type of thing. He was also, which kind of transitioned the business as it's developed over the years. So he used to also work for the post office. And was involved in the union there. And so he started going to trade shows and different, union specific things that got his foot more in the door and would specifically do towards union jobs.
So then he just slowly added on services over the years until...
Yeah, it was, some of the stuff he did, he tried to do sports teams, which sports teams could be profitable, but I guess I'd look at it as the same way as probably you guys do shirts. It's a lot of work to number and name and do stuff like that. And I remember him doing yearbook stuff, that when they do these reunions, and I remember him like photocopying these yearbook pictures and having to match the picture with the name and make the button. I mean, it was just kind of a nightmare. And so he just, he went through different aspects of what worked with the business. And eventually, like our big niche is political stuff. We kind of specialize in political buttons, stickers, different things like that. So,
which is a whole nother thing too, because when I went to your site, that was like the first thing that came up. Like that is your niche market for the most place, right?
Yes.
Is there a specific style of button? To me, when I think of like political button, I think of like the bigger ones, like what are they, 2-inch or inch?
2 1/4? Yeah, 2 1/4. 95% of the political buttons that come out here are 2 1/4.
And those are like old school. Like when I see vintage buttons at like a vintage store or whatever, they're always the big ones. I actually have one here somewhere. It's like a Kennedy button, like a political button from when Kennedy was running.
Yeah.
And someone gave it to me just because they knew I was into buttons. Oh, I have another. Oh, I got one right here too. That's a 2. I just dropped it and it's gone. Oh,
now it's gonna stab you.
Yeah, I love my American printer like button.
That's awesome.
And someone gave that to me, and this is like worn, and it's got that old like folded style clip on the back.
Yeah.
But I love buttons. Like buttons are so cool. Like when I was that fucking, I don't know, hardcore punk kid or whatever in bands, I always had the like denim jacket that had, you always had your top favorite like 6 buttons on the side or whatever, and you change them out all the time depending on what you're listening to.
Yeah, I've heard you talk, a couple episodes about maybe going back into it. Have you given any more thought, or just kind of still, throwing it around?
I have. Like, I legit want to start it back up. And the funny thing is like Christina a little while ago for like can't remember what it was, like birthday present or whatever, like rebought my original domain of merchbuttons.com. So if you go to merchbuttons.com right now, it just goes to Upstate Merch site.
Okay.
But like I have it again. So like now I could do it again. But the thing is, it's that thing now of like, I've been doing t-shirts for like 15, 17 years or whatever now. And to do a whole nother side project like buttons, even back then it was like, oh, I don't want to get 1,000-piece order for a church or something. And you're like, oh, I gotta print these. I gotta strip these. I gotta cut these. I gotta press these, and I gotta clip the backs on.
Yeah, you definitely. I mean, if you do it now, I'm assuming you'd have to get one of the big, that's my automatic. Is
and I think I might even have mentioned that to you before, like months or a year ago or something. Of like, hey, like I kind of want to look into this again, but there's no way I'm going back to like manually ka-chunk, like pressing buttons. Like even back then, like it's funny because you're in business now, and like when you're doing t-shirts, you're kind of playing with a lot of bigger dollars when it comes to like buying equipment and whatnot. But back then I didn't have the money to buy an automatic 1-inch button maker. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have that money. I was always dealing with like, a customer placed an order and I got $500 from it or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, half of this is parts and this and this. You're like, cool. Like I got $100 profit from this order. But to go out and buy like a $3,000 or whatever it is button machine, I was like, I don't have the money for that. Like eventually.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, those things, when we hire new people on to make buttons and stuff like that, I tell them to, when you're changing the tables out, when you're doing stuff, be careful with these things. Like sometimes they don't understand the amount of money that went into these tables and doing that. And it's funny, even when you say, kind of going back to buying the first 1-inch machine, my dad was one of the first, I think, if not the first distributor for Tekra to selling the machines. So he would literally buy one machine and sit it on the shelf. And then when he went online, and then if he sold one machine, he could buy another machine and bring it in. There just was the same concept. There was, no money for stocking or inventory or anything like that.
And I think that's the cool thing about it is it gets your feet wet a little bit with like this industry and like getting involved with, it's the same with t-shirts, like getting involved with bands or getting involved with political stuff or schools or churches or whatever. Like you get your foot in the door, and like you said before, like your dad slowly started to add stuff, and that's kind of what happened to me, because I was getting more and more involved with these bands and these whatever industries I was dealing with. And some of my good friends were really good designers because back then my main thing was designing. Like I was designing all these buttons and I was kind of reformatting everything. I was playing in Photoshop a ton. And I made friends with all these other designers back then. I was on like MT's website, which if you've been doing this long enough, you would know what that site is. It's not a thing
The
anymore.
Old forum site,
the old forums and all that stuff. Yeah. And it was the best. But anyway, like some of those guys were like, you really should offer on merch buttons. You should offer other things. So I was like, I don't even know how to do that. And I don't trust like who I'm going to send shit to, whatever. But I ended up doing it, and I ended up sending all my, I ended up starting off with stickers first, where I was like, okay, I offer 1-inch buttons and stickers. And I ended up going to Contagious Graphics, which again, I'm not sure if they're still around, but they were awesome to me. They made screen printed stickers. So I mostly only did like, the 1, 2, maybe 3 color stickers.
Okay. So they weren't even, digital.
They weren't digital. They were screen printed stickers.
Wow.
And that's what was in at the time for all the bands. It was like, okay, I'll order 1,000 buttons and I'll get 1,000 stickers or whatever. I had these packages. And then it got to the point too, where I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll outsource t-shirts. So it got to the point where I had outsourced t-shirts to this one company, in Atlanta, and most of my sales started to become t-shirts. Like I was still doing buttons and I was still doing stickers, but like I have way more t-shirt orders than I had buttons and stickers, which I don't know. Is that the case for you guys? Like as you started adding things, are you finding out that your website name is like now like,
it's funny. Well, I'm having, yes. And there's nothing I can do about that. We're actually in the process of changing that. I'm going to change the name to, instead of Dr. Don's Buttons, to Dr. Don's Print Lab, which will kind of play off,
nice.
The Dr. Don's and stuff like that. But there's no changing the name. And then the website name, Buttons Online, is, different than Dr. Don's Buttons. But It's one of those things. It's once it's embedded, it's kind of there, Yeah.
And it's kind of the same with like Sticker Mule and like all these other ones where like they start off with stickers and now they're offering like all these other like packaging and t-shirts and, whatever. And it's like, if you don't know who that company is and you look them up online or Google or whatever, you're like, why would I go there to buy t-shirts? Because it's a buttons.com website.
And that's where, the changing of the name, for me, it makes a lot of sense, especially locally. So we do, kind of like, I've heard you do most of your stuff, online. It's all out of state or whatever. That's, 95% of our stuff goes out of state. But the local stuff, you get people that come to you and they'll say, hey, this is my friend Adam from Don's Buttons. And it's always Don's Buttons, Don's Buttons. I'm like, well, we do a lot more than buttons, so it's, you want to try to diversify and change things. So,
yeah, no, I get that. And my thing is that I was so into the t-shirt thing because it just seemed more and more like a big deal. Like buttons were fun and buttons were cool and kind of like its own market. And, but more and more that I did t-shirts, I was like, oh, I really like this because obviously it's like more and more band merch and getting involved, and the numbers were bigger too. Like you're doing buttons, you're like, cool. Like I just sold buttons, but it was a $20 order.
Right.
And now you're like, cool, I just sold shirts and it's like a $1,200 order.
Right.
And you're like, oh, this is like, I'm doing good. Like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we've been doing, a lot more shirts, for stuff. The way we got started in doing shirts is kind of like, Christina's story from Snatch and Run. I think she was just on with you guys.
Yeah. Christy.
Yeah. Sorry. But she started when I heard one of her episodes on her podcast of that she used to go to a gym and, she got connected with these people and business owners. And that's kind of how we started doing it. I've never screen printed. I don't know how to screen print. I can talk like I know how to screen print because I've listened to you guys and I know a lot of the lingo, but, so we got started doing, digital stuff. And, I used to print off our HP latex printer. I could print colored vinyl and weed them and put them on a t-shirt. And, I'd make small orders for the gym. And then it kind of we got a DTG machine like 2 years ago, which was a complete disaster.
Which is the story for most people. I feel
everybody. And I mean, I researched the hell out of it, and I thought, well, I know better than everybody else. And it was a complete disaster.
Dude, I feel so bad. Like, what was it? It was Tuesday. I was just getting ready to leave the shop. I was leaving early because I was taking my daughter to Philly to see Gracie Abrams. And like right as I'm about to walk out the door, Brother and Hirsch walked in the door, like the reps. And they've never been here before. They were like, hey, we wanted to stop and talk to you. I'm like, dude, I literally have like 2 minutes. Like I have to leave. And they were like, oh, we just wanted to see like how interested you would be in like our, DTG machines or whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am so fucking like never want to think about that ever. Right. I was like, I am not bothering with DTG. I feel like the industry is kind of not thinking that direction anymore. I was like, I'm honestly, we do a bunch of DTF and we do a shitload of screen printing. And he's like, oh, here. And he gave me like a pamphlet on like their DTG or DTF like machine and all this other stuff. I was like, to be honest, a year ago, that I think this is what everyone was looking for. They were looking for a big name like Brother or whatever to have a complete package. Because before it was like, oh, this, this machine from overseas mixed with this machine makes this hodgepodge DTF unit. And now Brother has one. And I'm like, hey, that's awesome. Like I might need one at some point, but right now it's smartest for me to order it out. Turnaround's been great. Quality's been great. I don't have to do any maintenance. I don't have to fuck around with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you don't do any in-house DTF, right? It's all just comes.
I don't want to. Because right now, like, in all honesty, like we're ordering DTF on Thursday. Like we take the week's orders. We order all the DTF on Thursday, either cut sheet or roll, whatever it is. And we have them in hand, the best quality DTF we've ever seen and tested on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So like,
I agree. I mean,
there's Friday, Monday, and we have it on Tuesday. Like,
yeah, we have a DTF machine in house. And the reason I did that, because when we print union jobs and do stuff, I have to be the one that prints it. I can't outsource that. I can't do any of that. So that was the reason we did that. But if it wasn't that reason, I would do the same. You're not training somebody to do it. You're ordering the transfers in. There's so many great places.
And I won't mention names because I don't want to throw shade on anything, but there's certain friends of mine that have them, which I think it's the same reason as you. Well, not same reason with the union stuff, but like they do so much of it that they need it like that day or next day. And that's where they're like, all right, I got to buy the machine. But like a lot of them are like, dude, the hardest part is the maintenance and like if it goes down, whatever. And, oh, I have 3 machines, but like I always have one that's down at a time. And it's like, I have zero interest in like dealing with that. I just want to be like, this is what I need. Shows up at my door. We cut it, press it, call it good. Like,
right.
I don't want to have to like catch up on quality with like get a machine, figure it out to where it actually prints something and then find out that this other company is way cheaper and their quality is like 10x of mine. And it's like, all right, well, now I got to catch up on quality. I finally catch up to where they were, and then they're already light years ahead of where I was. And it's like, fuck.
Right.
Like,
yeah. And I mean, I understand the idea of people, when they want to control colors or they have to have something specific, but
right.
I think if you get a good supplier, you're not getting
Yeah, and a lot of people's are awesome, like great. Like I'm sure it's working for them, and for you, it makes total sense. And that's something I do want to get into in this as well as the whole union thing. But back to your dad's story real quick. I don't want to forget all that. So he started adding more and more buttons, and where does it pivot into this is a full-fledged business instead of just like I'm making buttons on the side?
I'm not sure the exact year, but it was basically a transition. So wedding photography, it takes up a whole chunk of your time as far as that. And there's no calling in sick. There's no, oh, I got a flat tire, I can't make it. Like your ass better be there. Right. He used to have an assistant that drove with him to weddings. And I remember he had a separate car that they drove, and her car literally caught on fire. And by the time, when the ambulance and police and whatever came, they said they just had it pushed off to the side and they drove to the wedding because there is no, calling in sick. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of the money that was really made in weddings was reproducing the reprints and sizing them up and stuff like that. And as the more digital cameras came around and it made it easier for people to just do all that, the business had grown a little bit more and kind of transitioned from, he gave up weddings and all that and was able to sustain it all with the button business.
And he was probably happy, honestly, to not have to be doing all the traveling. And a lot of that shit's probably on weekends.
Yeah.
And
always on Saturdays, like I said, and same thing. You can't do anything on Friday. He couldn't, hurt himself. He couldn't do anything, so it was always like this worrisome of, screwing. Cause most people, that's a pretty big day for him. And like I said,
I feel like that's the hardest thing. And Chad's going to be listening to this, but while he's editing it, and that's what Chad and his wife do, is like wedding photography, video, the whole thing.
Okay.
It just seems like, it's got to be stressful. Like, cause the people you're dealing with on that day want everything to be perfect, and they want it to be like done right. And they're already like super high stress level. And it's got to be a demanding thing.
It's a lot. I used to do wedding videos when I was like 13. I would go with him. He'd say, "We don't do any video editing, anything like that." He'd say, "My son will, videotape your wedding he'll give you the in-camera tape for $25."
Like luring hand at the end.
Yeah, but it was, for them, it was like, oh, it's $25, and for me, it was like, shit, I could make some money,
Right.
But I remember one of the last weddings I did, because I did it longer than he did, was my battery charger, and he always preached on having backups of everything.
Right.
My battery charger broke down at a wedding, and luckily I was able to get a hold of him to get me a second battery charger, because that was the utmost stressful thing of like, what are you going to go do? Tell him, hey, sorry, and
I got the first half, but
yeah, I don't have a battery charger, hope you don't mind,
Right.
And this was past the $25 wedding days. We were, up to the point of just not editing videos, but still it was
making the whole
very
thing way
stressful.
more legit. Yeah. Have you seen this thing? I'm sure you do to a degree, and maybe even you guys do it, but I've been noticing more and more that I like look at buttons or whatever. And it might just be my algorithm, where I'm seeing a ton of people making an at-home business, kind of like when we started, where it was like, I'm doing 1-inch buttons, but they're doing the rectangle magnets.
Yes. It's come on my feed too, where they're doing that, or the squares. Many. Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of like, that got in my mind of like, I could do this, but it's one of those things of like, do you want to hop on something that's a trend right now of like, oh, I'm just going to sell, Dropbox me 10 photos or something, and I'll make them into magnets and send them to you and charge you like $80 or something. It's like, I know that this isn't a hard process, but I follow this one girl now who I see doing it, who has an auto, like she has the whole auto press for the whole thing.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
And, I'm like, this fucking rules. Like I'm stoked for her that she found the niche and has the like, the videos and the hooks, and it's growing, and this is awesome, because that's how I felt when I started doing it. And now more and more that I'm thinking about buttons again, I'm like, damn, I'm like spotting things like that where I'm like, damn, I could offer this and 1-inch buttons. And then on top of that, me and my daughter went to the mall in Syracuse recently, and we went to the store called Box Lunch that we love. It's got all like nerdy, like comic book and movie gifts and toys and whatever. And in the button section, they had buttons that were shaped like a cat, like the cat head. And I was like, those are sweet. And then I got thinking about the wedding, like not necessarily wedding, but just photo magnets. I was like, I bet there's a whole market out there where if you bought that cat press, that you could have people send you photos of their cat, and you just made a bunch of magnets with your cat's head on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, those kind of cat people and dog people are crazy, and will spend a fuckload of money.
You always talk about, go for the niches. You can't get much more of a niche than that.
Like, I'm the guy who sells cat magnets. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I feel like if you'd be like, send me 10 pictures of your cat's head, I will make you 10 magnets or 20 magnets or whatever that you can like give to your friends, or you could trade each other's cat magnets or whatever. I bet that would be a thing. Yeah. I even looked it up. Like I looked online and I found the parts, I found the press, I found the whole thing. And I was like, for like $1,000 or something, I could have this like cat button maker.
And it was like a manual press.
Yeah, it was just like the Techry one or whatever. But it had the cat head shape.
That's funny.
I was like, damn, dude, this would be a whole thing because it's stepping up the, like you're saying, the square ones of like wedding photos to like the actual shape of a cat head.
Yeah.
I was like, with
And
AI
people spend a lot of money on their animals.
Well, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, if you're just like, hey, I will, instead of just photos of your kids, like cats, and there's a whole nother market that's just people who call their cats and dogs their kids.
Yep.
So it's like,
well, I guess you can't see, but I've got pictures above here of two of my
cats
dogs.
and dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the wacko people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have one of those here at work too. It's not a wacko thing, but like I'm just saying that it's a whole market.
No, I
it's
100% agree.
So I don't know, the button thing to me, and also too, my kids are at that age. Like I literally just got working papers for my son. Like he's 14. I'm going to have him start working here. And I got thinking, I was like, what is something that they could do that they could get into business and it wouldn't be so demanding, whatever. I was like, I should just do the button thing and help them create that and have it be their business. Like I'll do anything other than supervise and help them grow it. And just, it's an online thing. They make buttons after school. They ship them out. They make the money. It's theirs, whatever.
Yeah, we have a couple schools around here that sometimes they'll do like class projects, right? Or one of their jobs is to like create a mock business or type of thing like that. And so we've had a couple people over the years, they've come by and, did their research, and we had them make buttons and showed them, and, how you can make them, how you can sell them, how you can do this. And they made their whole class project about it and stuff like that. Cause it really is a simple process, especially, if you're not doing art heavy stuff, then you're taking photos of stuff. Could be lower quality. You can, print them, cut them, and start out so quick. And
and even with buttons, it was one of those things, like personally, you can cut anything as long as you can cut it and press it. You can do whatever. Like I'd always done like magazine clippings or stuff out of like AP magazine or whatever. I would just like cut it out, make myself a button or a dollar bill or whatever it is, like cut it and press it. What do you guys offer any of those specialty type buttons, or is it more just like bulk, like the different sizes?
Yeah, mostly bulk. I mean, we do a lot of memorial buttons too. Mm-hmm. So, when people pass away,
right.
Kind of templated stuff like that, but not usually, I think our minimum is 25 buttons that we offer, and which is why those other people, are in the market, because it is a great niche for people to just do one-offs of different things. And
yeah, well, like that girl we were talking about, she does whatever it is, 10, 20 magnets, and she's got like this little like felt bag that she slips them into, cinches it, puts it in a little box, like puts a note on top, ships it to you. It's like this whole thing. And
she does. I mean, I can see the video of it just like clicking from scene to scene of like, grabbing the magnets, opening the drawer,
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about the same person. And, it's just cool to be like, this is what she sells. That's it. Like, there's no like mass producing 1,000 buttons for some company. It's like, nope, somebody on Etsy placed an order for 20. They sent me the photos. This is what it is. It's done and out the door.
Which, she has to be killing it if she's got, she's not even using a manual machine. She's using an electric machine. So,
and if you go back through her videos too, it's like, okay, she had a manual press, and then she has the like big cutter, and then it goes to, oh, I got the auto and this and this. And she's just like sitting there with like her Apple headphones on, like making buttons. And I'm like, God, this rules. It just makes me want to do buttons again. It makes me want to do it, but it doesn't make me want to do it. Like I think of the time and the labor of it, and I'm like, if I like
the idea with your kids, if they were interested in something like that,
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because like my first employee ever was Chris, who's been with me for forever, and he was going to Syracuse University at the time, and he was going back and forth from school to home, and his dining room table, literally still at his home, has 4 screw holes in the middle of it from the button maker. So he literally just screwed it to his dining room table.
That's
and
funny.
Just would like do buttons on that. And you're doing the sliding thing back and forth and whatever.
Yep.
And if I was to go there and eat dinner tonight, there would be 4 holes in the middle of his table still fucking 20 years later.
Yeah. Well, you talk about your kids and stuff like that. That's what, when we were younger, because my dad didn't know, now you could put a, tagline with all your information on the button or the back of the button. So he used to print stickers, and we would cut the stickers with his name and phone number on it. And we would take each individual sticker and put it on the back of a button. Damn. And he would pay us a penny a piece to do it. And being, assholes. We said, we don't want a penny piece anymore. We want 2 cents. And he said, well, I'm not paying you, and fired both me and my brother from
Nice.
it.
So to skip ahead in your story, you talked about how your dad got involved with unions. What was the thinking behind that? Just because he was already involved, or?
Yeah, I think because he was at the post office. And I think over the years, me learning, you learn more about your parents' behavior as you grow older and stuff like that. He was always said he was in trouble, and it's probably because it was probably deserved. But the post office it's so political with the way they work and their officers and stuff like that. So, and the union protected him. My mom
was a postmaster for a while. So like I kind of heard some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he got involved and was involved in the union with stuff like that. And I think as the buttons went on, he really, believed in a lot of the stuff that the unions do and things. And so he got, applied to be a union member in a union shop, and which has, been wonderful for our business as well. So,
well, that's something I wanted to talk to you, and we can kind of step away from buttons. I don't know how much it applies with that, but like in general, I've toyed with the idea back and forth about getting the union thing and whatever. And the more I look into it, I'm like, all right, well, there's a lot of benefits and there's some negatives. And can you explain like how it's beneficial for you guys? Like, there's not a lot of shops that do it. I feel like you might think of that of like, oh, there's X amount, but like in the grand scheme of things of how many print shops and how many manufacturers there are, it doesn't seem like there's a lot.
Yeah. So, and there is rules you have to follow. There is, certain things you have to do, with your employees, with certain things. We have contracts with a lot of the union, the IBEW, the, auto workers union, different things like that. Cause you can't just take their logo then and use it. You still have to sign like a contract. And usually, they're more than willing to do that with you as long as you're following the rules. But usually every 3 to 4 years, we'll have a, renegotiation with our union. They want to make sure, your people are doing this and we're taking care of them and different things like that. And it just, when you're doing a business or you're starting anything, again, going back to the niches, like when you can identify what you can do as that we're a union printer and, going back to us doing a lot of political stuff. So people running for political office that are in high union districts, they might as well not show up if they get their stuff made, from a non-union shop. Like if you're like Detroit, right? So it's, an auto workers, heavy union, heavy labor, heavy everything. If somebody was running for office there and they didn't have the union bug on their shirts, they got printed, their buttons, their stickers, whatever. Again, it's, basically saying they don't support the labor and what the unions want. So,
right. So that's a lot. That's a lot of things it seems like it's stressful for like them to have to make sure all of those things are taken care of. And you're kind of there just like in waiting basically of like, hey, over here, like we can do all this for you without any of the stress, which is why you have to, I guess, manufacture more things there than you necessarily want to or would, because you need to make sure it's made in the US.
Correct. Yeah. Made in the US and has to, we can't outsource anything. Like we can outsource, so again, I don't do any screen printing in house. STL Shirt Co. and Connor over there, we outsource union jobs to them because they are a union print company as well. So if we get like a large order of a couple hundred shirts, that need to be screen printed, they can do contract printing for us and print because our union bug. Shop. Yeah. But we can't just go to, I couldn't have you just print anything with the union bug on it and stuff like that. Right. So that's why we do have to do, more things, and which is also, it's beneficial for us that those people are directed towards us and catered towards us. So,
which is the reason why I started looking into it, because if you were ever to look at my shop, there's 2 giant warehouses on this street. It's us, and across the street is a union shop, and it's a union, like, I don't know what you call it necessarily. It's like a union training building where basically all of these masonry people come in the winter, basically when they're laid off, and they come here and they learn the trade. Like they learn how to build this wall or do this thing or whatever. And they order a shitload of shirts, but they don't order them from us. And we're
Right.
literally across the street. Like, and I found that out, we have to go through this place that we go to in Rochester or whatever, because they're a union shop and all this other stuff. And we have to do that. And I was like, all right, well, just for them alone, I was like, I'll look into this. And then I started asking around, and there were some shops that were super helpful. But the one thing I learned is it's not like you can just like apply to be a union printer. You yourself have to be a unionized like business.
Right. Right.
So what
Yeah,
is
and-
that?
and when
What
you
does
do-
that entail? Like, what is the benefits or the downsides to that?
So every union has, a different set of standards that they would hold you to. So if you said you wanted to go join, Allied Union or CWA or different thing to be able to print their union label on it, because there's different union labels that you can print depending on what union is. They set the standard saying, your production people need to make this amount of money, and they'll negotiate that with you. And so that part, it is taken out of your hands a little bit more of what things are.
Right, like you can't just hire somebody and be like, oh, well, minimum wage for New York is $14.75. Like, that's what I'm going to pay. You're more like, well, the union says that I can't pay them any less than 16 or whatever. You just have to start there.
Correct. Yes, and you have to follow their guidelines, and it's it's we don't mess around with trying to do that. And our union's always been very good to work with. We're pretty fortunate for our union representation and stuff like that. And then they could always, the thing is too, that with always the set of standards too, and we've never had this, thankfully, but if one of my employees had an issue with me and the way we dealt with them, or had an argument or a firing or something like that, they could get the union. They are represented by the union, and could get the union involved to mediate or get their job back. So, which, again, we've never had to deal with that. And obviously there's certain levels of, if they're destroying property, if they're, doing drugs on things, that is a fireable offense, but you do it, and even without writing people up, there's a set of standards we have to do as far as it has to be done this way, and this way.
Right, but to not sound scary, it's not like this overlord seeing thing. It's just a part of your business that you don't really ever have to think about. It's just ingrained in how you guys do things, that this
Correct.
is the way it's handled.
Yeah, and we've never. I mean, even with the pay scale, dealing with employees and stuff like that, we make sure to always document stuff like that. But most of our employees have been here for years and years, and we treat them well. And we're blessed to have good people. So,
Can you explain the union bug? Like what that?
So the union bug is it's like it represents who you are and who you're represented by. So like ours is an allied printing bug. So it's sometimes on buttons it can be obviously smaller. You can't see it as well, but it'll read allied printing. It'll say the union you're a part of.
Right. Like I know a little bit about it because I researched it, but I'm saying for the listeners, like it's an actual like logo thing that you're printing on everything, right? Like everything you print, it goes on, correct?
Correct. Well, not everything, because some people don't want it on there.
Okay, so they have a choice of they having it or not.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I thought that was like part of it. Like the whole point of the union ordering T-shirts through you was that you were a union and you could put the bug on to show that they got it at a union place.
Correct. And you would want that if they want that, but some people don't. They don't care. They don't know. Like for the example of Memorial,
they covered their
buttons,
bases of like having an invoice from a union place, and they did their duty. They don't need like stamp of approval on everything, basically.
Or just if it's like I said, if it's Memorial buttons, somebody ordering those, they don't care about the union bug.
Right.
Versus if you're running for office, if you are a union officer, if you're like the Port Authority strike that just happened, that for a couple of days, those signs that they're holding up, it has to have the union bug on it. I mean, otherwise you're just,
right.
And basically that little symbol represents who it was printed by, and also that people that look for it, that it was printed by a union shop, and that they're representing union labor by going there.
Right. It's not like you want some political figure having a rally or something and they're like, we support America and American jobs. And then all the merch that everybody's wearing is like made in Bangladesh or something. It's like,
right.
right. Like that would.
And all unions are different too, because, you know, and we have to kind of walk through people through that, especially as we've gotten more into like the shirts. So like if you're a steelworkers union, like you care about Made in America, you care about the steel that's made in America, and you want Made in America shirts. If you're a teachers union, you are part of a union, you're still part of all that, but you don't necessarily care that if the shirt's made in a different,
Right.
you know, country. You want to make sure you're supporting a union shop and have the union bug on it. So you kind of have to always, you know, go through that and talk people through of what are you looking for? What do you need? What's important to you? Because, you know, obviously the Made in America shirts are more expensive. And if that's important to you, you know,
Right.
and kind of cover those bases of going over everything with the ordering. So
do you ever have any issues with getting certain inventory or certain items because it's harder to find a Made in America version?
yes.
I saw you sigh before you answered that question of like,
Yeah.
fuck,
I mean,
that's
we
my
just literally,
existence.
we just literally did an order for a union, and it's, you know, they need the Bayside shirts, and
That's usually what
was
we had used was Bayside.
yeah. And it's a Kelly green. And I think I had to order from 3 different places, you know, it was like 3 different places to fulfill the order, because it's just, they're not as prevalent. And then if you want an off color, you know, good luck with that, you know,
Right. It's like, can you just order safety or black? And like,
right.
that's probably got to be the easiest thing to get a hold of.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes we'll get, you know, quotes for something we want this kind of purple. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Right. Now to the political thing, how big or good is that market? Like, do you constantly have political stuff all year round every year? Or is it more like, oh, hey, hell yeah, it's election year, like we're going to have a ton of work? Like, do you have that influx every 4 years or whatever of like,
I mean, it's always this year's the best of all 40 years, because we put up on the website the presidential election stuff. So when the candidates are running for office, especially as it kind of gets narrowed down from their main people, sometimes they can't always get stuff, you know, whether it be buttons or stickers, or local offices, you know, from each party will order stuff to give to people to register to vote and stuff like that. So this, every 40 years, this presidential year is always the best of every year for us. But there's always with the union stuff, there's always union elections, you know, as it'll start, you know, beginning next year, union officers will run for office, and they'll get buttons, they'll get stickers, you know, all different types of stuff. So there's always elections going on. So it's just a mass thing every 2 years.
do you guys, being a union thing and doing a lot of political stuff, do you guys tend to pick a side? Or are you unbiased and you're like, we'll print for both sides, like we'll do
absolutely
the whole thing?
Yeah. Okay. You know, and you have to toe that line. I mean, I don't print anything that's hateful or
yeah. No, I get
like
that. I'm just wondering if it's like funny to see, like, okay, like this side of the fence will order 10,000 of something, and then this side of the fence orders like 3,000. You're like, oh shit, the other side is gonna have an advantage because they got way more of this.
It is. It's funny, you know. We've been asked and done, you know, a couple of interviews with papers and stuff like that, because they want to see, you know, even from back in 2016, like, can you tell by the amount of stuff that people are ordering how an election is going to go in the presidential year? And sometimes,
can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of can as far. Well, the last couple of years, or the last times it's been that way, when you're heavy on a person, that it goes that way.
Well, I guess like even now, it seems like on Trump's side, like he's got so much merch. Like everybody's got the red hat and the whatever, like, and Kamala's got like, I don't ever think of her as like, oh, she's got this kind of merch or whatever. So like, do you see that where some candidates go hard into promo and then some it's not so much? Like, do you see a correlation of like, could that be a pitch for you where you're like, hey, like if you do X and you fucking promote the shit out of like buttons or whatever, does it turn into actual like better support for them? Or are you just like, hey, buy as much as you can because we want you to buy these?
Yeah. And on that stuff, I mean, I don't know that we're the ones pushing as far as, you know, whoever it is. Yeah. But it's funny because again, we put up this stuff on the web and people can order anything of what we call our stock, onesie, twosies. If you want to order a button and a bumper sticker that's pre-made or pre-designed, you could do that, or you could order thousands of them. And really kind of for this year, and I don't know if it was just because the same candidates, whether it was Biden and Trump, it was that kind of market was, we were busy with doing custom orders for, political candidates all across the country, but it really was non-existent on that type of thing until the Trump shooting and then the replacement of Biden with Harris, and that the Harris market for us is, exploded into,
right.
just, thousands and thousands and thousands of buttons of,
what is
and like I said, it's local offices. Like, we shipped 5,000 buttons to the North Carolina office the other day, for them. And
I was going to say for the big boys, like what is what is the like typical order? Like they're not going to be ordering like 100 buttons. It's going to be like,
most of, if when it comes to like the local offices, it is that it's thousands. So they're not usually, and we might get, a supporting group. So there's always a lot of like local across the United States, clubs, right? It's like, we're part of the, whatever gun club of blah, blah, blah. And they need 100 buttons that say this for Trump or this for Harris.
Right.
But the main people, they're ordering thousands.
Is there a typical package where it's like this many buttons, this many bumper stickers, this many whatever? Like, do you have, because you offer so many things, do you have package deals?
No, I've tried it in the past, and I always found, which I'm sure it's the same as, when you guys do shirts, or, I heard you guys talk about that, like we do 12 shirts, 24 shirts. It's like everybody always wants to change it up. Can I do this? And can I do that? Can I add this? And can I do that? And so it just, and honestly, when you're busy, it doesn't matter anyway, because they'll take whatever you have for that.
Right.
So
that's true. Yeah. Do you feel like the button market is coming back up? Because for a while I felt like it was in trend again.
Yeah, I mean, this year definitely, and again, it's just probably because of an election year, but yeah, it definitely sways as far as that goes. It's weird because, I mean, we deal with, obviously buttons every single day, but we talk to people who are like, you make buttons, like you could make a living off that, or because sometimes if you're not looking for it, you never see it. You don't know any difference. People still buy those. Like, yeah, they do.
But that's what I was wondering. Like, obviously, it's not normal for us on this show to talk about buttons. But when I was doing it, I feel like it was really popular and it was really in. And then as I got out of that and got into t-shirts, I don't know if it was just because my mind was focused way more on t-shirts than buttons. But like, I feel like it kind of fell off a little bit or wasn't as popular. And then I think with like the resurgence of like everyone's wearing like 90s clothes now, and the fashion is that style, and it's bringing back, like I said, like the denim jackets and like the baggy jeans and all this other stuff. I feel like buttons and records and all these things that were nostalgic back then are now again like it's exploding again, which I was saying, like people are getting into all these different shapes of buttons and all this other stuff. Like I didn't know if for you, you're like, hell yeah, bring on that 90s feel. Like,
yeah. And we don't do, a lot with that type of stuff. That kind of market doesn't hit us as much. We sell the button machines and parts, but it's not a heavy part of our business anymore. Because there's so much competition with people that sell the stuff now and do that.
Yeah.
But I think even like with the, the more at home you can do stuff so easy now. You could get, a printer, just as the same as you could before, and make stuff, put stuff on an Etsy store, put stuff, like that.
And that's a whole nother market too. That's like exploded as far as like for t-shirts, like the Cricut mom or the, DTF mom or whatever, where it's like people are just buying these things at home and selling them. And another thing too that we're kind of involved in here is like our building and our street shuts down like 2 or 3 times a year, where we do a market that's like a maker market. And so many people sign up or want to be a part of it that are just like at home makers that are making, and you have to kind of turn them away because it's like, I don't want to have this entire street be people making tumblers at home or like Cricut t-shirts or something. And it's like, you would show up here to want to shop and see all these different makers, and it would be like 45 tenths of a Cricut mom or whatever. And then like 2 people who actually make cool custom shit.
My cousin just got into that. She came in and I wasn't going to be the one that shut her down. I just, said, yeah, I'll make you some business cards or whatever. But she's like, I'm going to open up a tumbler and t-shirt business. I'm like,
I mean, it's cool, but I feel like it's so saturated that it's kind of like you're selling to your local friends and family, like people who want to support you, not necessarily like I'm in the market for buying a bunch of tumblers. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I will support this person because they're making them and that's cool and whatever.
Yeah. I think with anything else too, if you don't have the ability to know anything with the art, if you're just literally buying the designs off Etsy and trying to make something, your profit margin, your ability to change or do anything is limited to.
Yeah. And I don't want to knock those people. Like, I think that shit's great, but what I want to see more with it is I want to see it be a springboard to buy, the next thing. Like, okay, I Cricut made t-shirts. Now I bought a 4-color 4-station screen printing press. And then I bought this, and I also bought the heat presses, and now I'm doing screen printing in DTF. And then I turned that into a small auto in my garage. Like, what I don't want to see is like, I bought a Cricut, I bought like a bunch of shirts at AC Moore, and I'm just going to ride this shit out into the sunset. Like,
yeah. And no, I agree with you. I think it's awesome because there is a huge market for stuff like that people just want a one-off thing, or they want a thing for an event, or they want this or that. It's just finding that niche of what works. And sometimes I think, when you buy these mass tumblers and, it's hard to do. And I think sometimes people think it's easy to just buy a couple things and sublimate it and, without having a niche or what you want to get into.
Mm-hmm. Well, the last thing I kind of want to get into with you is the fact that you do offer so many things and so many products. And you were saying that when you redid the website, you kind of had to, I don't know if you did end up, but like dump a couple things of like, is this necessary for us to do? Are we making money with this? Whatever. Nowadays in this market, there's a lot more discussion, especially now, of like recession and all this other stuff. Are you finding like, okay, we really need to sit down and look at like, what is profitable for us to do? Like, what can we cut and still like double down on and be like profitable and grow this company and whatever? Because we all have to do that. Like, we want to be able to say, oh, we can offer anything under the sun, but are we making money? Are we losing money? What are we doing? So for the future, for you, like, what are you seeing? Are you seeing because you said you got into t-shirts and whatever, are you trying to get more into a certain kind of market, or are you trying to cinch things down to be like, hey, we offer buttons and political stuff and t-shirts and this and this, and you were like, I got my core 5 things? Or are you like, fuck it, let's do 1,000 things?
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I think you do have to, we're very diverse with a lot of things we have, but even from there's things, we offer brochures and stuff like that. And like, that's one of the things I'm cutting out because we just don't do it enough. And sometimes when we get people to send us the artwork and it's just a mess, and then, our folder, and it's just like, we sell 3 things of these a year. Why are we doing this? Or, different elements of exactly what you're saying. Like, let's narrow our selection down and be able to focus and go, deeper on that than try to throw this wide net. And then you're not even, and my biggest thing is, if we're going to make something like a brochure, I want it to look good. I don't want it to look like shit, so then I feel bad selling somebody something, and, it's a lose-lose for both parties. So,
yeah. And me and Steven Farrig have had this conversation before where it's kind of like looking at things and being like, well, we can't, like, you have a customer that comes to you. I had one the other day, this is a weird example, but like, I had a customer come to us that I really want to deal with. I know they're going to order a ton of apparel, but they were like, can you guys make me a pop-up tent? And can you make me a tablecloth or whatever? And I was like, they need 1 tent and 1 tablecloth cover. Like, I can do that for you. I can go to this third-party site. I can spend half my day making the mock-ups and like getting everything ready and sending it over. Like, I can do that, but that's not my everyday. Like, if I was the tent guy, I would have a template so ready, and I would have actions in Photoshop where I'd be like, artwork F10, and it would fucking populate the thing and be like, here you go, here's the price, and done. But to be like, oh, we can do the tent and we can order you mugs and we can do this, and I got to outsource this here, outsource this there. That's like half my day when I could have just been like, nope, we print apparel, we'll do your t-shirts. like bing, bang, boom out the door.
Do you find like, cause I feel that exact same pain right now. And like, my thing is sometimes I say yes to things like, because I don't want to lose that customer. Like,
Exactly.
okay, I'll take care of it. And exactly that, I'm going and researching and looking and doing. And I guess my question would be like, if when you tell people, no, we don't do that, like, do you find that they'll still come back? And, you know, because my fear is they'll go somewhere else and the other person will go, yeah, we could do tents and your shirts. You don't have to bother with the other place.
Right. And what I did in this specific scenario was because of the conversation I had with Steven, where he was like, I think going forward, what we need to do more of is we need to, because I feel like 5 years ago, if someone would have came to me even a few times a year and been like, I want to order bandanas, I'd be like, all right, well, we can do it. And then I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to invest in bandana pallets and this length squeegee and the scoop coater that's that width, and spend like, I don't know, $8,000 to get all the supplies to be like, hey, we could do bandanas. And then we do like 6 orders a year. And you're like, cool, like fucking, I bought all this stuff to do this thing. Whereas now it's like, hey, we can do bandanas, and I have a guy that I can outsource to that is amazing at bandanas. Like, that's what he does. And what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to bother mock-ups. I'm not going to bother with whatever. I'm just going to send this section of this order to that guy. He's going to be like, yep, here's the mock-ups. Here's the price. I upcharge it and I give it to the customer and it's done. So in this scenario, again, like I have the fucking wholesale account at the place to get the tents done. But I knew that if I sat there, it's not something I do very often. I would have to fumble around. I'd have to get an illustrator. I'd have to do the artwork for the tent. I have to do this whole thing. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Tyler does these and he does them all day, every day. Tyler was on the fucking airplane. He was literally flying somewhere. And I texted him because he had Wi-Fi. And I was like, hey, you have any interest in doing this tent and table cover for me? He's like, yeah, no problem. I sent him the artwork. He sent me back a mock-up on a tent ready to go with a price from the airplane in like minutes. And I just sent it to the customer. I was like, here's the price. They were like, cool, approved. And then here's the big apparel order we want to do. And I was like, I didn't have to do anything. And it looked awesome for the customer too, because he was so fast at getting it to me that I looked like a pro. Like, okay, here's the quote for the shirts. Here's the tent. Everything's ready. Done. If I was to say yes and do that tent, I guarantee you I would not have gotten her mock-ups and pricing for like 3 days.
For sure.
Because I'd be like, I have all this other shit I got to do today. I don't have time to mess around with this tent. I'll get to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow would roll around and someone would come in and be like, hey, the fucking half the shop's on fire. And I'd be like, all right, well, I got to go deal with that. And I got to do this. And then at 4 o'clock, I'd be like, shit, I got to do that tent still. And then the next day I'd be like, all right, I have time to do half of this tent. And it's like, that's why I'm asking you in this, is because I'm genuinely wondering, like, how do you juggle all the offerings when you can't be doing a million of all of them? You have to be like, these 5 make our company, but we offer all this other stuff because of just what you said of like the people who order buttons also order brochures. And it's like, if I don't do the brochures, they're going to go to this other shop that does buttons and brochures, and then we're going to lose the business.
Yeah. And that's always been, you know, my thing. And everything you just said, I'm still struggling with. You know, I find myself on, you know, saying yes to things, and you know, that's not even on the site. Exactly what you're saying. I've never done tents, but I've, you know, gone down routes of like, oh, I can help you get that. And then I have known nothing about it. And then I'm like, I've kicked myself like, why the hell did I say yes to this damn thing?
Well, we even do that with screen printing. Like screen printing has a million different ways you can do things. We have customers all the time. They're like, hey, can you offer this type of printing? Or can you, you know, there's this specialty ink or 3M this or whatever. And you say yes because you're like, I am a screen printing shop. Like I can figure it out. And the upcharge on this ink would be this. And then you get it and you realize like you need that time to fuck things up. Like you need that time to spend with trial and error before you're an expert at that style printing. But you don't have time with that when it's the 1 or 2 order a year that you get for that product. You're just like, all right, well, I'm going to order an extra 20 shirts for this order because I know I'm going to screw a bunch up. And hope and pray you can make the order and you send it out.
Yeah. And I don't know what the right answer is, Dylan. I don't know. I'm sure everybody has a different opinion on that of if you should just say, no, here's what we focus on, or, you know, and then kind of slowly, if you want to do that, move into a different market.
Yeah.
Or if you just say no, and I know that's kind of your thing. It's just like, we do great screen printing. That's what we do. So
I say that, but I'm always conflicted. Like even right now, and I've talked about this on this show for the last couple of episodes of like, I have the opportunity of buying an embroidery business. Like it's a great opportunity. It makes sense to do it, but I am literally on fire on the inside of like, I'm gonna have to fucking learn embroidery. I'm gonna have to play around with it. I have to make room in my shop for it. I have to do all this stuff. And then it's a whole nother, like, yeah, it's involved. It's the same as you. Like all these things you offer are involved,
right?
But they're different. They're different ways of doing the whole thing. So I'm in thoughts now of like, I can't pass up this opportunity, but I also don't want it. Like I really genuinely don't want it. Like if I could pass up on it, I would, but I also see that there's a big opportunity, and every shop friend I've called and talked to about it, they're like, you're an idiot for not doing it. And I'm like, fuck, I really don't.
So it sounds like you're getting on embroidery machines.
I'm basically buying an embroidery business. Yeah, I'm in the works of trying to get it all figured out now, but.
And the embroidery does go hand in hand, even though it is a complete different market.
Yeah, it 100% goes hand in hand. Like I would say every fifth order we get, they're like, hey, I want 500 shirts, but I need 10 polos. And it's like, and we outsource it. We've outsourced it for 15 years and it's been fine. Yeah. But the person that we outsource to is now like, hey, I want to retire. Do you want to buy my company? And I'm like, yeah, like yes and no. Like I would like the revenue. I would like the having it in house. Like there's so many things in the yes column of like, I don't have to send it. I don't have to wait on your turnaround. I don't have to pay you a fee and then you make money on it. I could keep all that money for myself. But then the downside is I have those things. I have to hire a human being. I have to, feed the beast and everything else. And it's like, that's where you're kind of like, you got to take risks. You got to gamble here and there, but okay, now I'll offer two things. You know what I mean? Like I'll offer screen printing and embroidery, and then that's what it is. So again, I was only asking you because I'm genuinely curious as to like, is it a good model? Like, is it obviously it's working for you guys? You seem to be doing really well.
Yeah, it works. I think part of it, but I do agree because that's even what we've talked about is consolidating even what we offer on the printing side of stuff, and kind of just going and focusing more on that. Mm-hmm. To kind of take it back, I had a question for you on that. Like I never know what to say to a customer when, even with us, so we don't screen print in house. What is the right terminology or to tell people? Like, I don't want to feel like I'm lying to people when they say, oh, well, do you do, hats or house, or not, they don't say in-house, but do you do this at, like, I don't feel like saying like, oh yeah, we send it off somewhere, but I also don't want to say, yeah, we do it. Like I've always been curious about what the industry standard is for saying that you outsource stuff.
I don't think there's an industry standard. I think what the truth of it is, I think most people dance around it. They try to not say we send it out. They try not to say whatever. They just say like what I've said for forever, which technically works because we're hiring them to do it. And it's, for me, it's even better because it's literally across the street. Where I just say our embroidery department. So when someone says to us like, hey, like to one of the sales girls here, where they would basically have to take their question of the person about embroidery, email it to the person we have do our embroidery, and then wait for their response. We say, let me get back to you. I have to send this over to my embroidery department. They're going to take a look at it and get it back to us. So I always just say like the department, because in my eyes, it's technically like, even if we outsource to another state, I would be like, our embroidery team is in Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
And just like, oh, we don't have room in house for it, so we send it to this other facility. Like you saying,
which is technically true.
You're right. It's another facility. I didn't say my other facility. I didn't say like, I'm not trying to make like dance around it. It's just like, I don't want them to be like, oh, we'll take your order, take your money. But realistically, you could have gone to XYZ company and they would have just done it directly for you. Which I do that a lot too. Like people come to us and they're like, hey, I want fucking, I don't know, stickers or something. And I'm like,
Koozies.
hey, right. And I'm like, koozies is the number one for that, where it's not like, I can do them for you. Again, it's the 10th thing. Like, I can do this for you, but I know for a fact there's a company that could crush our price. Quality's great. Turnaround's going to be great. For a lot of customers, I would almost rather be like, I would love your shirt business. I will fucking live and die this order for you for the t-shirts, but I'm trying to do you a solid, I promise you, by just giving you the direct link to the place who's going to handle the koozies, because they're going to give you a front, back, bottom, whatever koozie cheaper than it would cost me to buy just the blank before I even print on it.
Right.
Like, just go here. Like, I promise you it's better, because what I don't want is to take that order, say we do it, order it, get it here, realize that something's wrong, and then have to eat it and send it back out, wait again, whatever. It's like, you just deal with them directly. And if you fuck it up with them, I had nothing to do with it. Like, I just printed.
No, it's a hard thing, to do. Cause again, the same thing you say, yeah, we can do it, or we can do this. And then you screw it up and you're like, why did I say yes to that? Why didn't I just tell them to go there?
But again, like, the other part of it is, and I've had a lot of discussions with other business owners on this too, is like, we need to step back when we ask ourselves these questions of like, what really matters? Because all day long we could sit here, and even with screen printing, scrutinize a print. Like, they bring in a test print and we're looking at things and we're like, well, we could reburn the screen, and we could fix this dot and get maybe what percentage more of this detail or whatever. And it's like, all right, zoom back. Like, this is for a lawn mowing company. Like, why are we worried so hard about this specific detail when they're not going to care at all? And I don't want to have that mentality. I want to make sure it's right. But sometimes, to be completely honest, it comes down to the final hour of the day or something. And like, we have to ship this order today or it's going to be late. It's like, are we willing to eat another day and then pay a 3-day shipping or whatever it is, just because we want to get like a percentage more of halftone detail or something?
Right.
It's like, they're not going to care. And it's like the same with you saying, where is this coming from? More and more, especially in our market today, I feel like we shouldn't be saying, I'm a screen printing shop and I'm a boutique this or whatever. It's more, we are your customer service team. Like, we're your agency, basically. Like, if you're like, hey, I need brochures and I need buttons and I need stickers and I need shirts and tents and whatever, I feel like for some people like you're like, fuck yeah, I can do all of these things. I can handle it for you. You don't have to worry. I will take care of the mock-ups. I will take care of everything. Here's your package deal, price, whatever. And you could just be in your basement in your underwear. But if you're really good at getting all of those things and contacting all those people, who cares? Like, they're paying you that price because you're good at getting those things. So I don't think that matters as much. Like, it matters to us because we're the business owner and we don't want to like feel that guilt of like, we don't actually make these in house. But the truth is, you're doing them a service by being like, I don't have to think about this. Like, because that's why I say my step back is like, I think about myself where I'm like, oh, it's got to be this local thing. And it's, I feel better about it when it's whatever. But like, I probably buy more shit on Amazon than anybody I know. Like, I don't care where it came from. I just want it. Like, I have like 3 Amazon boxes on my couch right now of just like random shit that like I thought of in my brain when I was in a situation of like, oh, I could really use this like thing. And I go on Amazon for 2 seconds and I'm like, oh, there's the thing done. I got it here. Like, not to say I'm not supporting whatever, but for yourself, they're just like, hey, I need this shit. I'm an intern at this political thing, and I just need to make sure I can check off my box today that I called the shirt place and ordered shirts, bins, stickers, whatever.
And genuinely, some of the people are like that. You get the people who want to nickel and dime you for everything. But sometimes when you deal with these candidates or campaign managers, that's all they care about. Their thing is time. We got to have this shit, for this time, and we don't care, sometimes what the cost is. I mean, the amount of money that's in politics and spent is pissed away on shipping. And it's crazy.
Right. And you're like sweating of like, should I tell them if I do the shirts in house? And they're
Right.
just like, they're like, I don't care. I just want you to get them here on Thursday.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how you do it.
Yeah. And I've never ran into that. I just always like, cause I kind of skirt around the issue of like,
Right.
you know, do I tell them this or that? Or, you know, even the screen, you know, I've heard the debate, you know, do you tell them, explain what screen printing or DTF is? And, you know, and some people I do because they're genuinely want to know. And some people I'm like, they ain't gonna know that, you know, damn difference at all or care. You know?
And I think that's the market you're in though. Like we cater to a lot of artists and, you know, like clothing lines or people who are caring about the quality of the screen printing of the shirt is printed on or whatever. That's where we get in the weeds with them. And then we're like, hey, I'm going to send you a sample of this DTF product. And I'm going to send you a sample of like a discharge underbase with a soft screen printing top, or like, here's a water-based product or a screen printing product, because they care about those little nuances of like how it feels, how it prints, how it lays on whatever. And we want to nerd out about those things. But then, like I said, that's why I'm not trying to knock anything, but that's why I was talking about like the lawn care guy of like, do we care about the detail? It's like that dude just wants safety green shirts with black print on it for his dudes that he knows are going to destroy in like 3 weeks. Right. He's going to have to order more. Like,
yeah,
that's
and you're
why
worried
I'm
about
saying that. Like,
detail.
I'm worrying about the 1% detail difference. And this dude just wants to make sure his guys show up to the next job looking professional, all wearing the same shirt. So they look like a crew instead of one dude wearing a Metallica shirt and the other dude wearing a Mariah Carey shirt. Like, he wants to make sure they look professional. That's the difference. The difference is what is it being used for? What is the intended purpose? And I feel like a lot of times we think about things way harder than we need to. We just need to be like,
for sure,
what is going to help this customer get this the fastest and the most efficiently and still be great quality. Like quality should definitely matter. And that's why I appreciate you like doing the union thing, doing things in house. Is like you guys are handling your shit in house and you want to do that as much as possible. But to a degree, it's like, what is best for our company too? Because especially now, like these recessionist feels or whatever is like, how do we make things as efficient and lean and whatever is possible in the shop to where we are still comfortable, even though things are slower or weird or whatever. So that was my concern for that long-winded question of like, is it still making sense for you to offer 85 products or whatever it is that you're doing?
Yeah. And some of them we don't, you know, we need to kind of tone down to, even like on the button side, you know, we when you make buttons, we sell these stupid gold rings that my dad put on there years ago that you could put like on the outer of the button and it has like a gold ring. So if people were making photo buttons, it adds a thing. And we would order 1,000 of these at the time from the manufacturer and they'd sit on the damn shelf forever. I'm like, there's no reason to offer these anymore, you know? Right. And that's just a little example, but yeah, well,
you said in the beginning that you don't offer 1-inch buttons because you don't want to have to sit there with the laborious, like clicking the backs on. Like,
yeah,
to me, in my eyes, when all I did was 1-inch buttons, like that's insane to me to not offer 1-inch buttons. But like when you say it like that, it makes perfect sense of like, there's no way to automate that. It's literally a human being grabbing it and clicking it in. Like it would be so labor intensive to have a political campaign be like, I need 10,000 buttons. You'd be like, hey, Susie, you're going to have no thumb by the time this is over.
And it's funny. There's as big of a button company as we are, there's another button company that is literally 3 miles down the road from us, which is really so weird. But they do mass produce stuff. You know, our key market is, you know, 500 to 2,500, 5,000, you know, within that thing. They're doing hundreds of thousands of stuff and they do 1-inch buttons and they literally have people there and they make sure they're clicking them and doing, and they have, you know, they're working on margins that are, you know, so slim. People have to be on, you know, schedule and stuff like that.
And that was always something I was looking into, not to super get back into buttons again, but like, as I was getting to the point where before I sold it and just started doing t-shirts full time, I was looking for ways to make things more efficient because it was the whole like, all right, well, I've got to cut paper into strips and then I've got to put in these little Mylar things, whatever. And then I started seeing people printing larger pieces of paper, but then running them through a laminator. And then I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense because then when they cut it, it's already got the miler on it. It's
Right.
pre-laminated. You don't have to fuck around. That skips a whole step. I was like, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And then I started seeing like later people getting them where it was like going through a machine, almost like a sticker thing where it's like cutting them all out on there. And then they just have all of everything laminated, cut, ready to where they are putting them in the autos. And it's basically like 2 parts. And I'm like, oh, it's so much better. Like, why didn't I think of that? Or whatever. But that was all after I got out of doing buttons. And it's just like so many little efficiencies with that kind of thing of like, that's why I want to do it again now, is because I've learned some of those things where I'm like, I could fucking do way better with buttons than I ever did when I first started.
And it's still today. I mean, it's a profitable thing,
Yeah.
depending on what your niche is and stuff. So,
But that's kind of why I want the kids to do it. Cause I'm like, hey, like I can help you get this going for sure. Like give you some knowledge. Like it's not like you're starting over or reinventing the wheel, but they're going to have to get some chops of like, I'm going to let them make mistakes. I'm going to be like, well, you fucked that up, or, oh, you didn't do this in time. And now you have to hurry up and do them tonight because you have to overnight them tomorrow. And you know, who's eating that overnight cost? You.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I love that idea because it's, you give your kid, money to do chores or do something around the house, or like actually, show them and have them run a business and kind of, get in there and see it. So,
yeah. Well, do you have any shop hacks or any tips that you want to share? I know I didn't give you much prep time because I asked you to do this kind of last minute, but do you have anything that's top of mind that's production or just business or office wise that
I do. So I was thinking about this, and I don't know if anybody's mentioned on the show or not, but there's companies out there. We use one. I think it's called Refund Retriever, which is an automated thing that audits your UPS bills, your FedEx bills, to see if there's mistakes or late deliveries. And now you only pay if they find something, but on certain things, and depending on, what you're shipping out, if you're sending something out and you're sending a next day air, if it's late, your customer's going to call, but you don't have to call UPS or put in a claim or go in, do that. It'll automate. Now you do lose 50% on that claim that was late anyway, but there's a ton of claims depending on the amount of shipping you're doing that are late. I mean, we had one that was like a next day air that was late by 10 minutes, and this automated system goes through, it just automates, and they'll collect refunds, and you just pay when they collect refunds on it. And it's called, the one we use is called Refund Retriever. But it's it runs in the background. You don't have to have anybody do it. So
is this almost like an app on your computer, like Honey or something, where it just like does stuff without you thinking about it? So this is keeping track of all your tracking numbers basically, and being like, well, this one was screwed up or this one was late or whatever. And
correct. So when you create
money back from UPS.
Yep. When you create an account, you have to go in and you give them your UPS, your FedEx number, your stuff like that, so they have access to it. And then it has some computer program that runs in the background, and it, will copy and take every tracking number and see, was this late? Was this whatever, and again, a lot of times, even with ground shipments, people don't think ground shipments are, guaranteed, but they are, and they'll get your money back, on shipments. Your customer might not
50% of that money back.
Correct.
Which is like you said, like who gives a shit if it's 50%? Because normally it's 50% or nothing. Because like if it's a day late, or I've done that all the time where I send an overnight shipment and they're like, oh, due to weather delays, we can't fucking deliver it today, and it gets there 2 more days later. I would just eat that. Like I would never recoup. It's not worth calling UPS, my rep, and being like, oh, this was a day late. Like that's my whole thing. And I think it's, a lot of people don't know about it, but it's been, pretty awesome hack, because like I said, you don't have to think about it. You don't do anything. Right. The only they send you an email when they collect, and you just have a card on file and do this, but nobody's paying somebody to sit there and look through bills and see, was this late? Was this done this way? And so what is this called again?
It's called, the one we use is called Refund Retriever. That's the name of the website. Is
it okay? You go to the website, you sign up, and it just kind of, you set it up however they ask you to set it up.
Yep. Yeah. It'd be the same as if you were signing up for like a ship station or whatever, that they want your UPS account number, and you get like the bill.
Do you have to pay like a monthly or a yearly service fee or anything, or they just know there's going to be mistakes and they're going to make money?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and there's been times we've had, if it goes by a month and you don't get anything, but you don't pay anything.
Yeah, but who
So-
cares? Then everything was done right. Like who gives a shit?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And depending on your shipment, stuff you're doing that's heavy or whatever could be delayed or for whatever reason. And again, the customer's not complaining because they didn't know that it was supposed to be, or it got delivered a day late or whatever it is. And so you're basically keeping the money, on that shipment.
Hell
So
yeah. I'm definitely going to try that. Like as soon as I get off this.
yeah. It's a pretty cool service. And it's just one of those you sign up for and you don't have to think about, and you don't have to, pay for,
Right.
So
It's just, they know they're going to make money off of you because of the amount of shit that you're shipping.
they do. Yeah.
It's awesome.
And it's all automated on their end too, for whatever their computer program.
Yeah.
did.
They got nerds over there that have figured it out. They're just sitting at home and collecting. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I love that. Is that the only one? I mean, that's a great one. I haven't heard one like that in a long time. So kudos to you for that one.
Yeah, I think that's the only one, as far as I could think of, that would be good for businesses and stuff.
That's all you need. That was a good one.
Good.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on here and doing this with me, especially last minute. I'm glad we got to finally chat, and I might have to reach out to you about more button questions because now you've got me wanting to get involved again. I did want to ask you real quick, what was because your website's different than your business name, and now you're changing it again. Where did the Dr. Don's thing come from?
My dad's name is Don Ratliff, and so he just made up something like the initials
Don?
DR,
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Don's, and it doesn't have anything, to do with it. But the
People
doctor
just know
part,
you
we
as
do get.
Dr. Don.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's stuck, and I don't know. I think about it over the years of why didn't we change this? But then exactly like you say, what does sticker mule mean? But people know the brand of it, and
Maybe just keep it as Dr. Don's. Like people just know
it'll
you as
always be
Don.
it'll always be Dr. Don's. We're just changing the ending part of it because
Right.
The idea of rebranding that, because you can see the Google Analytics and stuff like that, and people still search Dr. Don's, so
Awesome.
it is what it is.
All right, dude. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dylan. I love the show, and you guys have been amazing.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.